Maho can't believe it, and I can't either. Who blatantly very hides Chaos Child lads in their own freaking games? I don't know what the other ones on the other side of the screen are, but they're probably for something. That's the point of an ad, right? Also, that woman still looks as concerned as she did when I was last here. Anyway, hey there guys, my name is Nix and welcome back to Steins Gate 0. Last time, things happened to Kagari and it wasn't pleasant. She started believing she was Kurisu. Or like the memories of Kurisu came more to the forefront. And yeah, it just wasn't good. So we decided to tell Maho everything. For like the 4th time? I'm gonna go with 4th time now. And as always, she doesn't believe us until we tell her, yeah, Kurisu did it. And then she's like, yeah, okay, what? You know what? Never mind. Anyway, Maho can't believe it.
No, but it's true, isn't it?
On the train back, Maho Hiesho was having trouble controlling her excitement. 2 girls who said they came from the future. And Okabe Rintaro's story about the time leap machine. Normally she'd never believe them. But if Makase Kurisu's mind had made these things possible, she could accept them. Kurisu was a genius. She just might be capable of it. To Maho, Kurisu's capable of anything. And most of all, she'd seen it for herself. On the way back from the lab, Suzuha had taken her to the top of the radio building and showed her a real time machine. It was night, and she didn't have a lot of time to look at it closely, but she could tell at a glance that it wasn't made with modern technology. Honestly, she wanted to start work on making another one tomorrow, right now even. But she had something to do first. The time leap machine that Kurisu had made. She needed to make an improved version. That meant she was going to be practically living at Okabe's lab for a while. So she decided to get what she needed from the office in Wako City. From outside the building, she could see that the lights were still on despite the late hour.
Maho!
Maho! As soon as she got inside, Dr. Leskanen rushed over, his face pale.
What? What happened here?
Oh, the office has been ram-raided again, has it? The room had clearly been ransacked. Of course, the place barely had anything in it to begin with, so with a quick glance, it was hard to see what was changed. But Maho and Dr. Leskanen's desks had clearly been searched. The drawers had been locked, but the locks had been broken and their contents spilled out. Dr. Reyes hadn't brought much of anything, fortunately, and so she'd escaped with very little damage. But her drawers had been dumped too.
What happened here?
Someone broke in.
A thief? It was like this when I got here. It might be espionage. In an empty office like this?
Wouldn't it make more sense to hit up the Riken Institute next door? Only a few people even knew this office existed to begin with. Suddenly, Okabe's words began to take on a new meaning for her. Could this have something to do with what he'd said? Was the secret war over the time machine already beginning? Anyway, Maho, I want you to see if anything's been stolen from your things.
Okay.
Well, was anything taken?
No, nothing of mine.
She checked the desk and the drawers and couldn't find a single thing missing.
What about you two? I don't seem to have lost anything either.
I looked at my computer, but I didn't see any trace of access by a third party. You're sure nothing was stolen?
Yes.
Come to think of it, Maho, what about your laptop? Was that stolen?
Oh, I left that at the hotel. It should be fine.
I see. I hope you're right.
What do we do? Call the police?
If nothing was stolen, it might not do us any good to make a fuss.
You're right. Maybe we should just wait and see what happens.
Maho wasn't sure that was a good idea, but she could understand that going to the police would be a big hassle. Especially since they weren't Japanese to begin with. And more than anything, Dr. Leskanen didn't want to lose the time that could be spent on research. The same was true of Maho, too.
Actually, Professor, I need a favor.
Dr. Leskanen agreed to give her a vacation much more readily than she expected. Maybe coming to the office over New Year's had paid off. Now she'd be able to focus on the time leap machine. Once she'd gotten back to her hotel room, she quickly got her things ready. She wasn't checking out the hotel, but she needed clothes and other things so she could stay at the lab for a while.
Okay, the last thing I need is...
Once she finished packing her bag, she grabbed another bag that was placed next to it. It was a laptop and a portable hard drive that she'd gotten from Kurisu's mother after her death. She tried many times to crack the password, but never managed to succeed. She knew that she wouldn't have time to do anything with it, but she still didn't want to leave it here.
That's right, wasn't he?
After she made one last check of her things and got ready to leave the room, an idea came to her. Not a bad idea if I do say so myself. Maybe this is what Kurisu wanted. She quickly shook her head and chased the idea from her mind. Kurisu would get mad at her. Life and death were like binary, 0 and 1. You could be one or the other. There was no will that existed after death. If it existed at all, it existed inside the brain. Several days had passed, and I still had no idea who planted the memories in Kagari's head. I went all the way out to talk to the priest who found her, and even questioned the locals in the surrounding area, but I had no luck. Suzuha seemed to be doing her own research. She hadn't been back to the lab since then. She was in touch with Daru at regular intervals, so I didn't think she was in danger. I asked Tenyoji and Moeka again, but neither of them seemed to have any luck. In this world line, the lab hadn't even been attacked, which meant they might be up to something else. Even if they were, I had no way of even imagining what it was. But I was sure that someone had kidnapped a young Kagari Shina and experimented on her, and only recently had she escaped. They had been planning something, and I was sure it was bad. We didn't have time to wait for them to act. But without any clues, there was nothing we could do. My mind kept going in circles, and I kept getting more frustrated and nervous with every minute.
Sorry to make you do all this for me, Maho. No, it's almost done. And I'm doing it for me, too.
Maho staggered out of the development room and sank into the sofa and smiled deeply. There were dark spots under her eyes. For the last few days, she'd been working on the device without any sleep. Her work needed to pay off soon, and as fast as possible.
Anyway, I never would have come up with the idea of using a cell phone. And even if I had, I never would have actually tried it.
When you're talking on a cell phone, you always need to put it up to your temples, you know?
That's what the frontal and temporal lobes are. If you consider the
Oh, Jesus Christ. Here we go with the brain chemistry again.
If you consider the parahippocampal gyrus in the temporal lobe is where the memories are stored, it makes sense, I think. The question is how we compress the memories, isn't it?
I'm working day and night to make that happen.
すまないな。
Sorry, Daru. And you absolutely insisted that I not let them find out that I'm hacking in from this lab, so it's extra hard. I've got other work to do, you know. To compress the memories, we need CERN's LHC, no matter what. That one took a lot of thought. If we made an enemy out of CERN, that tragedy I'd gone through before would repeat. But the main reason that CERN had attacked us was the D-mails we'd sent to the past. If it weren't for that, they probably wouldn't have bothered. And since we weren't sending D-mails, CERN would probably never detect us. Probably. Fortunately, Suzuha had the IBM 5100 that we needed for the hack. Things were coming together better than I expected. You know, Ocarina, she's almost a completely different person now. You're right. I nodded at Daru. For the past few days, more of Kurisu's memories had been invading Kagari's mind. Lately, she'd even started discussing complex technical subjects with Maho. She was acting just like Kurisu used to when she lived in America. At first, Maho seemed put off, but eventually she adapted. Maho probably wanted to get the details about the device from Kurisu, so it seemed to be helping.
You know, even after seeing the time machine, I still can't believe you made the time leap machine in a lab like this. The idea of digitizing human memories and sending them to the past is an amazing one. You're brilliant, Maho. I'll say the exact same thing to you. Huh? You're a genius, and in the end, I'm just Salieri.
Watching the two of them, it was easy to fool myself into thinking it was Maho and Kurisu talking.
なあ、Kagari。
Hey, Kagari.
Oh, right. I wanted to ask about Amadeus. What happened to the project? Unfortunately, it was shut down.
Kagari。
Kagari?
Shut down? Why? Did Dr. Leskinen decide to do that? I don't know. The professor said the orders came from higher up. But it was going so well!
なあ、クリス。
Hey, Kurisu.
Yes? Huh? What was I just...
君はカガリ。
You're Kagari.
シーナ・カガリだよな。
Sheena Kagari, right?
Sheena Kagari. That's right. I'm Sheena Kagari.
Kagari suddenly put her hands up to her head, afraid.
But then... What are these memories in my head?
それはマキセ・クリスの記
The
憶。
Makase Kurisu's memories,
君の記憶じゃない。
not yours.
そんなこと言われてもわかんないよ。I don't know what that means!
Kagari was acting completely different now that she was just a moment ago with Maho. She raised her voice like a child throwing a tantrum. To me, these are all my memories! My memories with Mommy Mayuri! My memories with my dad when I was a kid! And then my memories at the college in America are all inside me! I don't know which is real and which are fake! Her words turned to sobs. I could understand how she felt. From her perspective, it was all real. None of it was fake. It was easy to tell her to get a hold of herself. But it wasn't that easy for her to actually do it. I remembered what Kurisu had said when she'd finished off the time leap machine. She said you could never put your memories inside someone else's mind. It would destroy their personality. But if If we were to leave Kagari like this, what would happen? There's a chance that her own memories would disappear and only Kurisu's would remain. If that happened, who would the person in front of me become? Would they be Kagari? Or would they be Kurisu? If it was Kurisu... That wasn't true. It was impossible. I couldn't even think about it. But the more I thought, the more I felt a horrible idea tugging at my mind, no matter how much I tried to ignore it.
Tell me,
私どうしたらいい
what am I supposed to do?
助けて
Save me!
ママ
Mommy!
パパ
Daddy!
It would have been great if Mayuri was around. But unfortunately, both she and Lukako had gone to school. Both of them were worried about Kagari and had told me to contact them if anything came up. But that didn't mean I could rely on them all the time. Kagari-tan, why not go for a walk to get your mind off things?
そうね
That's right.
人間じっとしてると
Humans have a tendency to overthink things when they're sitting still.
少しくらい
It might be better to move
体を動かした方
around
が
a
いいかも
little.
しれないわね
Okay.
Alright, Okarin. Take care of Kagari-san.
わかった。
Okay. The two of us walked out into Central Street together, but we didn't really have anything to do. The air outside must have made her feel a little better because Kagari was starting to calm down.
そのどこか行きたいところ
Is there some place you'd like to go?
どこでもいいの
Can I go anywhere I want to?
ああ
Yeah,
君の行きたいところ
anywhere you want.
それじゃあクリスさんと行ったところに
Take
連
me somewhere you
れ
went
て
with
ってほしい
Kurisu.
What?
オカリンさんがク
Take
リ
me
スさんと
someplace you went
歩い
with
たこと
Kurisu,
のある
okay?
場所に連れて行って
Somewhere I'd been with Kurisu. Where could that be? The coin laundry in the neighborhood? Horan Park? Gyudon Sambo? I hadn't spent a lot of time with her at fun or romantic places. I'd spent a lot of time with her, but most of it had disappeared into how many different world lines. I'd gone through that time again and again. But most of it had been spent arguing and working with her at my lab. We never spent any time going places to have fun. We never made it to Aomori either.
オカリンさんがクリスさんと初
Where
めて
did
会
you
った
first
のは
meet Kurisu, Okarin?
初めて会った場所
Where we first met.
私そこに行きたい
That's where I want to go.
The place where Kurisu and I had met. It was...
ここが
Is this it?
a brightly coloured building in front of Akihabara Station. The radio building. This was where it started. Yes, this is where everything had begun. On that day, the time machine appeared on the roof of the building. It was just after that when I met Kurisu. I could still remember it. The challenging look in her eyes. Thinking back, I may have already fallen in love with her then. But even though this was the place I'd met her, this was also the place where I'd...
オカリンさん
Okarin? What's wrong?
すまない
Sorry. Lately, I've been so busy with Kagari that I started to think I was getting a little better. But maybe I wasn't.
汗すごい
You're really sweating.
ごめん
I'm sorry.
もしかして
Is this my
私の
fault?
せい
いやそうじゃ
No,
ないんだ
that's not it. It's just... Whenever I came here, I couldn't help but remember what happened that day. But
行こう。
Let's go.
いいの？
You sure?
悪いんでしょ？
You're not feeling good, are you?
大丈夫だ。
I'm fine. I couldn't just stand out here forever. I couldn't keep Mayuri, Daru, and the others worrying forever. If I needed to get over it at some point, then...
わかった。それじゃ
Alright, let's go.
Something soft touched my hand. Kagari was holding my hand tightly in hers.
ありがとう。
Thank you. Kagari led me down the bustling street towards the radio building. My knees felt like they were about to give out at any second. Even after I'd gone inside, I was still doing better than I thought I would. But I still didn't feel like climbing the stairs to where it happened. We took the elevator to the roof. Faris, aka Akiha Rumaho, had carefully locked the door to the roof so that no one who wasn't authorized could enter. I'd been given the key too, but today was the first time I was able to use it. The first thing I saw after coming onto the roof was a strange-shaped object. The time machine.
Wow, I remember this.
これこれ。
I came here in this thing.
これに乗ってきたんだよ。
Kagari happily ran up to the time machine. It was right after she'd separated from Suzuha that she'd lost her memories. She remembered going from the future to this place in 1975.
初めてこのビルの上に降りた
First
時
time I
に
came
ね
out here, I was
お空
amazed
が
at how
すっ
pretty
ご
the
く
sky
綺麗でびっ
was.
くりしたの。
Unfortunately, it wasn't very pretty right now. Kagari spoke as if there was an endless blue sky stretching out in front of us.
私、ママと別れるのが嫌で、
I didn't want to leave Mommy, so I stayed inside the machine and cried.
ママに会いたいよって。
I missed her so much.
そんなことじゃダメだ。い
But
つま
Suzuha
でも
told me
泣くん
that
じ
I
ゃない
had
っ
to stop
て。
crying, but I
鈴葉
couldn't
お
be
姉
like
ちゃん
that
に言わ
anymore.
れて。それでも
I was still
悲
so
しくて
sad.
そんな時に
And
開い
then
た
the
ハッチ
hatch
の外
opened
に見え
and
た
I
の
saw
が
the blue
青い
sky.
空だったな。
2036年の空は
The sky in 2036 isn't blue?
戦争の影響でね。
They want me to
ずっ
go all
と暗
dark
く
and
て
black,
暗い空。
and they wouldn't let me go outside very much.
外にもなかなか出してもらえないし。
The mid-70s were right after the big economic growth spurt. Ecological concerns weren't as important as they are now. That was also when air pollution was a really big deal. It still is. The air probably wasn't as clean as it is now. If it seemed beautiful to her in any way, then that must have meant the air in the future really was terrible.
オカリンさんはここでクリスさんと初めて会
Is
った
this
の
where you first met Kurisu?
いや、こ
No.
こじゃない。
This isn't it.
ここ
This is...
お
Oh,
A cold drop hit my nose.
降ってきちゃった。
it started to rain.
Yeah,
そうだな。
yeah, you're right. That's right.
Okabe?
生きてたか。
You're alive.
そっか。
Right.
ここだとあんたと会っちゃ
I forgot I might run into you here.
忘れてた。
何をしていたんだ。
What were you doing?
考え事。
Thinking.
そうか。
Oh. The rain had been falling then, too. When she'd learned that either she or Mayuri was fated to die, she'd come here and looked up at the sky like this.
すごい降ってきたよ。
It's really pouring. Okarin, get inside.
オカリンさん。
Okarin?
What had she been thinking then? When she'd entrusted her fate to another person, to me.
オカリンさんたら。
Okarin, you're going to catch cold. Hurry.
早くこっちに。
Kagari dragged me inside, away from the noise of the falling rain. A few moments later, I found myself sitting there. The place was being renovated and none of the stores were open. The lights were off too, and that made the place seem very gloomy.
That really surprised me.
That day, after the rain, Kurisu and I had leaned up against each other and talked. And this was also the place where...
ここだよ。
This is it.
Huh?
ここが
This is where I met
俺とクリスが初め
Kurisu.
て会った場所だ。
Strictly speaking, this is where I'd first met her in the Beta World line. That day, half a year ago.
What were you trying to tell me earlier?
さっきとはいつのことだ。
What are you talking about?
About 15 minutes ago, before the conference started. You were trying to tell me something, right? You looked really sad. You looked like you were going to cry at any second. Why? Have we met before?
Thinking back, that was the beginning of everything. I wished I'd never met her. If I'd only known this would be the result. If I'd never met her, I wouldn't have to feel this way.
Okarin-san.
Okarin.
I felt something soft touch my face.
カガリ。
Kagari.
私が怖がっていると
Mummy used
マ
to
マ
do this
が
whenever
よ
I
くこう
was
して
scared.
くれたの。
どうして？
Why?
だってオカリンさん
You looked like you were going to start crying any second.
今にも泣き出しそうなんだもん。
Kagari patted me on the head again and again, as if I were a child.
あいつとクリスと
This is where I first met
初めて
Kurisu.
会ったのはここだった。
ここって
Here on the
こ
landing?
の踊り場？
Yeah,
最初の印象
she left a terrible first impression.
初めて会ったっていうのに
The first time she met me, she was arrogant and spent a lot of time glaring at me.
可愛さのかけらもなかった。
Not cute at all.
もっとも
Of
向
course,
こうだってそう
she
思
probably
ってた
felt the
だろ
same
う
way
けど
about me. After all the time I was rambling about nonsense like organization agents.
でもそれでもクリスさんは
She still ended up being someone you cared about.
大切な人になった。
That's right. That was in the Alpha World line, though. Right after I met Kurisu in this one, she'd...
私の顔ってクリスさんに
My face looks a
よ
lot
く
like
似てるんだ
Makase's,
よ
doesn't
ね。
it?
どうしてそれを？
How did you know?
真帆さんから聞
Maho
いた
told
の
me。so.
I noticed a thing there that they didn't put into the text. She started saying senpai and stopped herself and called her Maho instead. That's a detail you left out, game. It's a good thing I have... I was about to say basic. It's the most basic level of Japanese you could understand. I know, like, some major words.
それでネットで調べてみたん
And
だけ
so I
ど
looked it up on the
自分で
internet
も
and
びっく
I
り
was
するくらい似
amazed.
てた。そんな人の記憶が
Maybe
私
it's
の
fate
中
that her
にある
memories
な
are
んて。
inside me.
それも運命なのかな。
Fate. It always was. Fate laughed at us. It toyed with us.
ねえ、もしも
Hey, just hypothetically.
A drop of rain ran down Kagari's hair and hit the floor.
もしもね、椎名かがりの記憶
If
が
I
な
were
く
to
なっ
lose my
て、
memories as Shina Kagari, and they were all replaced with the memories of Makase Kurisu,
そしたら私
would
は
I turn into
マキセクリ
Makase
スになっちゃう
Kurisu?
のかな。
そう簡単にいくものじゃない。
It's not that simple.
でももしもだよ。
What if it
もし
were?
もそうなるなら
If that
オ
happened,
カリンさんは
would you be
嬉し
happy
い私が
if I became
クリスさん
Kurisu?
になったら
Would it make you happy?
オカリンさんは嬉しい
It was the voice of the demon I tried to so many times to ignore.
俺は
I didn't want that. Or did I?
でも私はやっ
But
ぱ
I
り
wouldn't like that though.
Another drop of rain struck the floor.
このまま自分が
I don't want to disappear,
かもわからない
not
まま
knowing why I was ever
だ
alive,
からも
not being of any use to anybody.
かがり
Kagari.
私
What's going to happen to me?
私は
I...
私は
Kagari was shaking a little. It wasn't just because of the cold.
ごめん
I'm sorry.
いや
No. I never did figure out what she was apologizing for.
このままじゃ風邪をひく
You're going to catch a cold. Let's go home.
Yeah.
とにかく上がってください
Just come in.
The first time I went into Lukako's room, it really did look like a girl's room.
Oh, you're both soaked. You better hurry and change.
Yanabayashi Shrine was closer to the radio building than the lab, so I decided to bring Kagari there. Mayuri had sent me a message on the way, so I had her come here first. I figured that Kagari needed Mommy Mayuri right now more than she needed me.
Mommy.
Just as I thought, the second she saw Mayuri's face, she relaxed a little.
寒かったでしょ
You must have been so cold, right?
お風呂沸かしてきますね
I'll get a bath ready.
Lukako handed us towels to wipe away the rain and ran out of the room to start the bath.
お風呂ママと一緒
I
が
want
い
to
い
take a bath with you, Mommy.
まゆしと
With Mayushi?
いい
Sure, okay, but what will you do, Okurin?
おかりんはどうする
いや俺はいい
Oh, I'm fine.
かがりを
You guys can go
先にやってやって
first.
あり
Okay, thanks. Make sure you change so you don't catch a cold, okay?
着替え
I'm slowly slipping in.
だけでもしてね
I feel like I almost slipped into Faris with that one, and I don't know how that happened.
なんとかす
I'll
る
work something out. Maybe I could borrow Lukako's father's clothes? Just as I got up to leave the room,
かがりちゃん
Kagari?
どうしたの
What's wrong, Kagari?
something was wrong with Kagari. She was staring at Mayuri's face, confused.
かがり
Kagari?
誰
Who are you?
Eh?
Huh?
あなたは誰
Who are you?
まゆしだよ
It's me, Mayushi, Kagari.
かがり
Kagari.
私の名前
My name?
かがり
Kagari?
違う
No. I'm...
私は誰なの私は
Who am I? I'm...
Kagari tore at her hair and let loose a cry that sounded like it came from the pits of hell.
しっかりしろ
Get a hold of yourself, Kagari!
It hurts. It hurts so much. It hurts. It hurts, Mommy. Help me. Help me, Daddy. Someone save me. Save me. Someone.
She was like a puppet whose strings had been cut. All the strength left her body and she fell forward. By the time I left Lukako's house, the rain had stopped. We waited for a while after that, but Kagari showed no signs of waking up. She looked peaceful as she was sleeping, so I decided to leave her to Mayuri and Lukako and head back to the lab. According to the two of them, she'd gotten confused several times in the past. But never like this. We might have underestimated how dangerous her situation really was. Her brain was probably under a lot of stress already. We needed a way to deal with this, and now. But for that... Oh, good. I think we're good. The second I opened the door, I heard Daru and Maho yelling. Really? I ran inside without even taking the time to remove my shoes. Oh, Okarin, perfect timing!
Okabe, you're soaked!
That doesn't matter. Did you guys pull it off? Mm-hmm. Daru gave me a thumbs up. Nice work, Daru. I'm a super hacker. This is nothing. You could say that, but I knew exactly how much talent and effort it took to hack CERN. Your average hacker couldn't do it. The name Super Hacker wasn't just for show. What about you, Hiyosho? Were you successful too?
I'm pretty good at my job too, you know.
Maho stuck her thumb up just like Daru had. Wow.
Well, this was all thanks to the information you and Kagari gave me. In that sense, we were lucky that she had Kurisu's memories.
No, you were the one that did the work.
Thanks. I'll just accept the compliment. Now, the question is whether it works. And the only way to find out is to try it.
You're right. I want 3 trips to Kitchen Gyro. Sure thing. Anyway, everything was ready. All that was left was to find out who they were. But that was still the biggest problem.
Okay, I'm gonna go get some rest. I'm pretty tired.
The sound of a ringing phone cut her off.
Jeez, who is it? I'm just about to go to sleep. Yes, hello?
She muttered to herself as she took the phone to the back of the development room. So, how's Kagari-tan doing? About that. Just as I spoke, a Rhine message had arrived. I let out a small sigh of relief and sent back an answer. Good. Sorry, can you look after her for a while? I'll contact you if I need you. It's no good, actually. She forgot who Mayuri was today. Seriously? That's not all. Right after that, she started complaining about a horrible headache and passed out. That's bad, isn't it? It is. We need to do something. But unless we know who we were up against, there was nothing we could do.
What? You're sure?
Daru and I exchanged glances at the sudden voice from the development room. Maho-tan, what's wrong? Did something happen? When we looked inside, Maho turned around in a state of shock.
Someone ransacked my hotel room.
The call was from the hotel. Maho was staying at a business hotel in Wako City. Sometime in the past few days, while she'd been staying here, someone had ransacked it. She'd left her keycard with the front desk, but there were signs that the lock had been picked. She'd just given her okay to search the room.
それで詳しい状況は分かったのか
Did they find anything?
今から警察に連絡するから
They're just about to call the police, and they want me to come back to see if anything's been stolen.
早く戻ってこいって
じゃあ何が取られたかわからんってこと
Then they don't know what was stolen?
もしかして下着とかも
Maybe they stole your underwear?
そういうのは全部持って
I
きて
brought all of that with me.
セクハラで訴え
Do you want me to sue you for sexual harassment?
うひーそれだけわかんない
Please don't.
まあ
My room's always a mess anyway, so it's possible that it just looked like someone ransacked it. If I wanted to be optimistic, that is.
鍵が開けられてたっていうか
They
ら
said the lock was false, so it's almost certain that someone broke in.
間違い実は
Actually, the same thing happened at the office not too long
オフィス
ago.
の方が荒らされたことがあって
じゃあ単なる偶然
Then
じ
it's
ゃ
not
ない
a coincidence.
何
Someone is after something you've
ヒア
got.
さんの持っている何かを探しているんだ
そうね
That's right.
でも
And I think I know what it
何
is.
を探しているのかは
なんだ
What is it?
クリスのノート PC
Kurisu's laptop.
あれか
That. Putting all the pieces together, that seemed the most likely option. I could be sure that whoever tried to overwrite Kagari's memories was the same group that attacked her in the other world line. Whoever those people were, they were after the time machine theory hidden in Kurisu's memories. But since their experiment had failed and Kagari had escaped, they turned their attention to the other thing that Kurisu had left behind. The laptop and hard drive that Maho had. But if they were after that, did that mean they had it now?
つかその PC ってこの前マホ
Wait,
タンが
is that the computer you gave me?
何
What?
実はね
I really wanted the password cracked, so once I started staying here, I gave it to
ここに困る
Hashida.
ようになってから
それじゃあノート PC
Then the laptop.
無事のはずよ
It should be safe, right?
もちろん
Yep.
今は僕
It's in my secret hideout right now.
つってもずっとセルの
But since I've been so busy hacking CERN, I hadn't had time to
まだ
analyze
パ
it.
スワードは解析できてないけどね
That made me feel a lot better. Now, if only we knew who had broken into her room. But it wouldn't be that easy. Still, if they'd done something like that, they must have been starting to panic. What would they do next? Wait a second.
もしかしたら
We may be able to use this.
使えるって
Use it?
I didn't want to waste time explaining, so I just took my phone out and made the call. Several days later, Kagari's condition was getting worse. Staccato footsteps echoed through the darkness. Akihabara got quiet early. The ever-busy electronic stores, the concert halls that were filled with the cheers, and the coffee shops that were always full of laughter. All of that gave way to silence as soon as night fell. A single set of footsteps walked slowly through the silence, never breaking rhythm. They belonged to a girl. It was dark, and so it was hard to see her clearly. But it was very clear that she was acting strange. She had a cap pulled down over her face, and was trying to avoid letting anyone see her as she walked. As if she was hiding from someone. As if someone was chasing her. And just as she was about to turn a corner, several men jumped out in front of her. The girl stopped in surprise. Suddenly, there were men behind her, too.
Sheena Kagari だな。
Sheena Kagari, right? One of the men spoke. His Japanese was fluent, but she listened carefully. But if she listened carefully, she might have detected the trace of a foreign accent. The girl they called Kagari was helpless as they surrounded her. One of the men thought to himself, "This is the easiest job in the world." All they had to do was kidnap a single, helpless-looking girl. There was no need to bring this many people. No, it wasn't just him. Almost everyone there felt the same way. Stay calm and we won't hurt you. The men gradually began to close in. The girl simply stood there, afraid, and showed no signs of resistance. This was too easy. Just as the man smiled and reached out his hand, he thought he heard the sound of something slicing through the air, and then felt the ground clutching his hand. It looked like 3 sausages lying on the ground. Before they realized the sausages were the man's fingers, another man went down from a high kick to the head. The men began to howl in rage.
You fucking bitch!
They leapt at the girl, swearing, in English apparently. But kind of a feel like we've just used Suzuha to dupe them all. One of the men who was trying to attack her from behind suddenly screamed.
Oi, oi. Shizukani shina.
You need to cool it. You don't want to make a lot of noise either, do you? Hi, Tenyoji. This literally just was like bait. We just baited them with Suzuha and Tenyoji. A huge man came out of the darkness, silhouetted by a moon. A moon? The moon. Holy fucking shit, Suzuha! That was all I could say as I watched these tough men go down, one after the other. I knew from his size that Tenyoji was strong. It was the other girl that really shocked me. Her disguise ruined, Suzuha jumped around like a cat. Each time she moved, the men around her quivered. I knew she'd undergone combat training, but I had no idea she was this strong when she got serious. The kicks from her long, lithe... Is that lithe or lithe? I don't know. I'm gonna go with lithe. Her long, lithe legs were like a work of art. Not bad, part-timer.
You too, boss.
The men fell to the ground without even having time to draw their knives and guns. Several days earlier, when I realized the enemy was probably starting to panic, I came up with a plan. In the last world line, Moeka had told me that someone was looking for Kagari. I wondered if that was true in this world line too. So I asked Moeka to leak some information for me. A girl matching Shiina Kagari's description came down this road at the same time every day. And today, a few days later, they'd all taken the bait. I hung back behind the corner of an alley, watching them fight. I felt kind of pathetic. But it was obvious that not only would I be of no help whatsoever, that I'd actually just get in the way. So it was smarter to leave it to them. How are things on your side? I heard Daru's voice from the earphone on one of my ears. I'd called him and left the call connected so we could talk at any time. Is Suzuha okay? Is she hurt? Daru had been opposed to Suzuha's plan to use herself as the decoy. He must have been worried about putting his daughter in danger. Don't worry. She's a lot more amazing than you realize. Well, she is my daughter. But if she gets hurt, I'm going to hate you forever, Okarin. He'd be better off not worrying about the people she was fighting. I suddenly heard a high-pitched whistle. At the signal, the men started to turn and run. They realized they'd fallen into a trap and decided to retreat. Sorry, not happening. Tenyoji's giant arms grabbed one of the men's hands. But there was a hollow popping sound, and the man's body went limp. No way. He was dead? He took his own life? Uncle, he's coming toward you! A piercing yell brought me back to my senses. One of the men was coming toward the alleyway where I was hiding. Our goal was to capture them and make them tell us who they were working for. If we couldn't do that, all of this would be for nothing. I ran out in front of the man without even thinking. My sudden appearance caused him to hesitate for a moment. But he kept charging without dropping his speed. I saw that he was holding onto something shiny near his waist. Just as he hit me, Suzuha slammed into him with a jump kick. I've got great images of her just doing like the fucking Bruce Lee kick through the air. It's a great image. You're welcome. Gotcha! The kick knocked him directly into Tenyoji's waiting arms. Tenyoji caught him easily and spun the man's arms around his back so he couldn't hurt himself. Uncle, you hurt? I'm bleeding profusely, Suzuha, but other than that, I'm fine. Are you okay? I'm fine. Okarin, what's wrong? What happened? Don't worry. Everyone's safe. Did we get him, Suzuha? I'll take that as a yes. Something like a scream came out of his mouth. At some point, Tenyoji jammed what looked like a towel into it. He was probably trying to keep him from killing himself, like the last guy. Hey, cool it! You're the one who's gonna have a bad time if there's a fuss. And we're still only on the first one, pussy. We've got 9 more to go. And we've got the eyes, and then both the ears, and the nose. There's lots of fun in store for you. I'm imagining... When he says the first one, I'm assuming he's ripping his fingernails off. That's what I'm assuming's happening there. Because that's when he says we start moving towards, you know, everything else. His voice was cold. This was the real Tenyoji. This was FB. I wanted to look away, but Suzuha was watching without flinching in the slightest. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this either. You're gonna tell me in the end anyway. So isn't it just better to just get it over with now? Don't like that noise that happened just beforehand. Well, shall we go for number 2? The man shook his head violently. Should have just done that from the start. So, who are you working for? Tenyoji took the towel out of the man's mouth. He said something in a whisper so small I couldn't hear it. Tenyoji's pallor suddenly changed. Oh, of course. Hey, you're not lying to me, are you? The man desperately shook his head again. Stratfor, huh? That's gonna be a problem. Stratfor. I'd heard of them. That was when I was into conspiracy theories. I'd looked them up on the internet. Their real name was Strategic Focus, I think. They were an American civilization intelligence company. Sometimes they're called the Shadow CIA. They specialized in military matters, and their skills had supposedly been put to good use during the Iraq and Gulf Wars. If a certain rounder like Tenyoji just said they were a problem, they probably were. This wasn't going to be easy. But now wasn't the time for being scared. You heard that, Daru? Start hacking Stratforce servers right now.
Okie dokie.
Okie dokie! I felt myself starting to relax after I completed my first objective. But there wasn't time for that. This is where things really began.
What's wrong, boss? Something bothering you?
Nah, it's just that Stratfor's a civilian company, you know? I mean, somebody's hiring them. No matter how many of these people you catch. Is it really gonna solve the problem? It did seem strange, come to think of it. Hey, you. You really? Tenyoji tried to wring the man's neck again, but... Damn it. He passed out. What a wimp. Tenyoji sighed and took out a rope and then started to tie him up. Let me clean this up. You guys go. You're sure? This isn't the end, is it? I was a little curious what he intended to do with them, but... Alright. I'll let you take care of it. I had other priorities right now. I said my thanks to Tenyoji and hurried to the lab with Suzuha. Uncle, hurry! I know! Suzuha ran through the night like a panther. It was all I could do to keep up. The path to the lab seemed far longer than it usually did. We finally made it to the lab. Mayuri, Faris, and everyone else were already there waiting. And Kagari, too. Kagari was lying on the couch in obvious pain. Her breathing was shallow. Her complexion was pale. Something bad could happen to her at any moment. Daru, how's it going? Just a sec. I've got the route I used last time I hacked it. Checking it now. The last time? Why did you do something so dangerous? It was a bet with a buddy of mine. We were going to try and see who could hack it faster. When it gets a year's worth of go-go curry. He probably had no idea how dangerous that was. Huh? You're not going to ask who won? From the way he was acting, there was no need to even ask. Just hurry. Roger. Since their plan to steal back Kagari had failed, there was a good chance Stratfor would resort to even more desperate measures. There was no time to waste. And... Oh god, am I bleeding? Okarin? You're not looking so good. No. No, it's nothing.
It's not nothing, yeah? Let me see, yeah?
Faris ripped off my coat.
You're really hurt, yeah?
Okabe, you're bleeding. Okarin! I tried to avoid looking at it, but there was a lot more dark blood staining the side of my shirt than I'd expected to see. When the man had stabbed me before, it must have gone in pretty deep. I'm fine.
You weren't that fine, yeah? Look at Yang, get the first aid kit.
Okay,
俺は大丈夫だ
I'm okay.
マユリ
Forget about me.
それよりもガガリは
Mayuri, how's Kagari? Kagari! Hang in there! Kagari was still on the sofa, panting for breath. For the last few days, she'd been getting weaker and weaker. Her hand reached up into the air. Mommy? Mommy? Where are you? Mommy's right here. I'm right beside you. Mayuri grabbed her hand tightly and she finally smiled a weak smile. Mommy? Mommy? Am I just going to disappear? It's okay. Akurin and Daru will do something. Akurin? That's right. You know Akurin, don't you? Akurin. Kagari's lifeless eyes turned toward me.
心配しなくていい
Don't worry. Just a little more.
もう少し
Just a little more and we'll have you back to normal. Okabe. Huh? Embrace me.
ガガリ
Kagari? No. Erase me from within her. At this rate, she's going to... Those were Kurisu's words. Personality and memory were two different things. Just because she had Kurisu's memories, that didn't mean she had Kurisu's personality. But... Please, Okabe. Erase me. Those were definitely Kurisu's words. At least, that's how it seemed to me. I remembered what she'd said before. She told me to save Mayuri. She told me she couldn't sacrifice Mayuri to save herself. Maybe there was a tiny chance that Kurisu's memories would safely settle inside Kagari's mind. But even if they did, I knew what she'd chosen. She'd chosen to leave. She'd chosen to disappear. I had no way of knowing if the words coming out of Kagari's mouth were from another personality created by Kurisu's memories. But there was no doubt they were Kurisu's words. Right now, she was nothing but a formless thing called memories. So why? Why, even now when she was nothing but memories, did she still have to suffer so much? Why did she have to suffer at all? I'm sorry, Okabe. Clear drops fell from her softly closed eyes.
誰
Daru,
まだか
did you find it yet? Kurisu? I asked him to stop myself from screaming her name.
待って、もうすぐ
Hang
も
on.
うすぐ
Just a little more. Just a little more.
This isn't good, Uncle.
Suzuha whispered to me as she looked out the window.
1, 2, 3. There's a bunch of them outside. It's Stratful.
誰
Daru!
よし来い
Okay, come on, come on, come on, come on! The tension was rising every second. Was he done yet? Why wasn't he done yet?
シュー
Got it!
誰
Daru?
シューシューシュー
Alrighty, I got it! Bingo! Lukiko and the others brought the treatment device over, but I motioned for them to stay back as I looked down at the monitor. Maho leaned over Daru's shoulder.
重要そうなファイルの中から
Look at the files that's seeming important and pick the biggest one.
待ってよ。
Wait, the biggest one? Could it be this
も
one?
しかしてこれかな。でもファイルネームジョン。
The file's name is John.
モーツァルトの洗礼名はヨハネ
That was Mozart's Christian name. That has to be it.
なんかよくわからんけど
I don't get it, but okay.
中にもファイルがいっぱい
There
あ
are a
る。
lot of files inside, though.
見せて
Let me see.
Inside the folder were several files labeled with codes.
ファイルが増えてる
There's more
私たちの
files.
研究段階じゃこん
There
なに
weren't
多く
this
な
many
か
when
っ
we were doing the research.
Which meant that after the Amadeus program was shut down, it had ended up in Stratfor's hands somehow, and they'd gone on to do more experiments with it.
たこの中のどれかがカガリさんの
One of these has to be Kagari's memory data, but
K6205 だ
K6205.
え
Huh?
K6205 番が
K6205 is Kagari's memories, Daru! Code number 620. The magic flute.
K62 あった
K620. Ah, I found it!
後の手はずは
Now, just like we talked about! Compared to Kurisu's time leap machine, the process was a lot simpler. Since the memory data already existed, there was no need for a VR headset. Or the PhoneWave. All we had to do was use the decoder program on Kagari's memory data, then use CERN's LHC to compress it. Then we transferred the compressed data and sent it to the cell phone.
完全に
hurry! We're almost completely surrounded.
誰準備はいい
Daru, you ready?
オールオッケー
Okie dokie.
よし
Okay, do it!
待って
Wait!
I looked up and saw that Maho was staring at the screen, her features frozen in an iron mask.
どうしたヒアジョさん
What's wrong, Hiesho?
本当にうまくいくのかしら
Is this really going to work?
失敗したら
If it
カガリさ
fails,
んは
Kagari will.
I reached my arm around Daru's back and put my hand firmly on her shoulder.
大丈夫だ
It'll be fine.
保証する
I guarantee it.
岡部さん
Okabe.
おじ
Uncle!
かがり
Kagari? I stepped away from the PC and knelt down in front of the sofa where Kagari lay.
さん岡部さん
Okabe?
いいな
Ready? Goodbye.
Yeah.
Kurisu.
They're here!
Daru!
了解
Roger! The sound of footsteps coming up the stairs. The sound of the phone ringing. All these different sounds filled the air.
Listen, Okabe.
さん
The last thing she said was,
私
I think that I
岡部さんのことあなたのこと
loved you.
whether those were Kurisu's words or Kagari's. The words were cut off by the sound of the door and the sound of screaming. I hesitated. Not only did I hesitate to answer it, but I almost tapped the reject button to answer the call. But then Kagari's fingers cut mine off. And then her fingers, or maybe Kurisu's, tapped the button to answer the call. And then the phone up against her head stopped ringing.